Good morning, stars. It's Monday morning. How was your weekend? I hope you had a lovely lay in and let mummies and daddies have a lovely lay in. And maybe you've gone for a nice walk, and maybe you watched a lovely film and had some cozy time indoors. I'm missing you lots, and we've got a really fun week ahead of us. We've got lots of fun tasks. We're going to do a little bit more around the world. We're going to have a little bit of a look at our world today. We're going to have another lovely story, The Queen's Hat, which is one of my absolute favourites, and we're going to be doing a little bit more work on that this week. We've got some phonics, we've got some maths, we've got some lovely, lovely tasks. So I hope you really enjoy your home learning today, and I hope you're really well, and I'd love to hear from you. So if you do any super work at home, make sure you take pictures of it or videos and send it over to me, because I love hearing from you. Our project for this term is around the UK, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at where we are in the world, really, what we are a part of, and how we are positioned in the world. So some of the key vocabulary we're going to be looking at is a village. A village is a place where people live. There must be a church in a village, and there may be a school. Our village is called Goodnesston. A town is a place where people live and work. There may be shops, places of worship, which is like a church, leisure facilities, so that might be like gyms or parks, and schools there. It is bigger than a village, but it's smaller than a city. A city, this is the biggest settlement where people live and work. There will always be a cathedral, and there may be tall buildings. They tend to be busy places with lots of traffic. London is a city. Actually, it's a capital city of England, which means the government sits there. A county is an area which may include a group of towns or a city. England is split up into 83 counties, and we live in the county of Kent. A country is the land with its own government, borders and rules. We live in the country of England. And then you've got the United Kingdom, and this is 4 countries which make up the United Kingdom, and that is England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. Our country, and the bit that we sit in the United Kingdom, is called England. And then you have a continent. So we're just getting, each time we're getting bigger and bigger and bigger. A continent is a group of countries. The world is made up of 7 continents. You've got Europe, Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Antarctica and Australasia. England is in the continent of Europe. Now, one thing if you look at the bottom of your knowledge organiser here, you've got the continents and the oceans, then you've got the United Kingdom, then you've got England, and I've made a little sign that says London and Kent, just so you can see whereabouts in England we are. And then if you look on the right hand side, you can see where that arrow falls, where Goodnesston is, and next to it is Canterbury and Sandwich and Deal, and they're all of the towns and cities that are near to us. So also what we're going to be doing is we are going to be looking at some landmarks in London. So we're going to be looking at the City of London, because that's our nearest huge city, and it's the capital city of England. So it's really good that we have a really good understanding of London. So London is the capital city of England. It has 8.9 million people live there, as well as the Queen at Buckingham Palace. There are many famous landmarks. Now, landmarks are something that a place is recognised for, really, and are quite special to a place. So I wonder if you could look in that picture and see if you can see anything that you can recognise. Straight away, I can see the London Eye. That's that big, sort of big Ferris wheel in the middle there. And that Big Ben is that huge clock tower there. So also we're going to be looking at our little village of Goodnesston. Now, you should be quite familiar with Goodnesston. You all come to school here. I know only some of you live here, but lots of you know it quite well, and you spend quite a lot of time here. So Goodnesston is a small village. Only 378 people live here. It is surrounded by lots of farmland and woodland. We know all about the woodland, don't we? It has a church, a pub, a tea room and gardens, and of course a school. So Goodnesston is very, very different to London, isn't it? And we're going to be looking at lots of different things that make it different to Goodnesston and London, and how different they are.
So today I thought we would do our right dance. We normally do this every day in Star Class, so it's a really nice way of us strengthening all of our muscles in our hands and our arms and our wrists and our fingers and becoming really, really ready for writing. We need something in both our hands, so you can use 2 wax crayons, 2 felt tips, 2 pencils, whatever you've got, and a nice big piece of paper if you've got one, old wallpaper, if not some paper out of your exercise book, whatever you've got really to make it work. Your video that you're going to see, I've attached a really nice video of a little boy doing it, so you can just copy him and you can copy all the actions, and it's got all of the music on that we normally use as well. So I'm going to leave you to go and do that. So today in our reading, we are going to be looking at this story. It's another story that's based in our capital city of London, and it's called The Queen's Hat. Now on the front cover, I wonder if you can see all of those wonderful men in their red uniforms with their little hats on, and I wonder if you can remember seeing those in Katie in London, or if you recognise those from the video from William Whiskerson as well. They are the Queen's Guards, aren't they? So who is the author? Can you remember what that word author means? It means the person that wrote the story, doesn't it? And this author is called Steve Anthony. And the story, the summary, the blurb on the back says, a sudden gust of wind sets off a marvellous adventure for the Queen. Lots of Queen's men and one very special hat. Just where will that hat land? A witty and stylish celebration of London, the Queen, and the new royal baby. Oh, there's a lovely picture at the back as well, with all of those, the Queen's Guards, all of them, look, climbing up that tall landmark. I wonder if any of you can recognise what that landmark is. What's in the middle here is a clock. What's a famous landmark that's got a clock on it in London? Big Ben. So let's have a read. The Queen's Hat. I'm going to sit like this, so hopefully you can see all the pictures as I read. The Queen was on her way to visit someone very special when the wind went swish. The wind took the Queen's favourite hat right off her head. Oh gosh. And look, there's the Queen's little doggy as well. He's got a very fancy jumper on, hasn't he? And that is a very nice hat that's all of a sudden gone off the Queen's head. It soared high above the Queen. It swooshed high above the Queen's men. The wind was so strong that it swept the Queen's hat all the way to Trafalgar Square. Wow, look what the Queen's hat has just flown over. Who recognises this from Trafalgar Square? Who can tell their adult? Who is that? We've just read a whole story about this lovely lion, haven't we? This is the lion, isn't it? From Katie in London. I wonder if his tummy is chilly today. Sitting on that cold stone, do you remember? He had a really chilly tummy. So it's gone all the way Trafalgar Square and all through London Zoo. London Zoo. Well, London Zoo is a very famous zoo in London. It's got lots and lots of lovely animals. We're very lucky in Kent as well. We have some fantastic zoos. I wonder if you could tell your parents any of the zoos that are local to us. Think about any animals that you might see in the zoo. Because what's the Queen on top of here? What animal is this? And all along the London Underground. The London Underground. The London Underground is a network of trains and trains that go underneath the city, and they stop at all different places. If you've ever been to London, you may have gone on the London Underground. It's another really famous way of transporting yourself around London, a bit like the big red buses, but it's underground. And all around the London Eye. And all across Tower Bridge. Well, Katie and the Lion definitely went across Tower Bridge, didn't they? And William Wiskerson. These are all our famous landmarks. And all over Big Ben. Look at that. Look at all of those guards. Where it sailed up further into the sky. Swoosh! Until at last the Queen and all the Queen's men floated gently down. Look, they've all got umbrellas. They're all floating down. That reminds me a little bit of another famous story that's based in London. Mary Poppins, she comes on an umbrella, doesn't she? That's one of my favourite stories. To Kensington Palace, along with the Queen's hat. What's here? What's in this pram? What do we get in prams? A lovely baby. There we go. There's the Queen pushing the new royal baby. And the butler saying, would anybody like a cup of tea? Being ate. So I've got some questions that I'd like you to have a really good think about our story that we just read, the Queen's hat. So my first question, who is the main character in the story? I wonder. Question number 2, what did the Queen lose? Question number 3, where have we seen that lion before? The one that was in Trafalgar Square. Where do we know him from? Where have we seen him from? And number 4, where did the Queen finally find her hat? So I'd like to see if some of you record yourself like I'm doing right now and send me your replies, or if you really want a challenge, see if you can write them down. So in our SPAG session today, we're going to be looking again at full stops and capital letters. I just want to do a little recap on what we learned yesterday. So yesterday we thought about capital letters, and I told you a bit of a secret about capital letters, that the word I, as in I love sweets, is always a capital letter. So when it's by itself and it's the word I, it's always a capital letter. And you had some tasks to fill out that were linked to that letter I, and you had to change some sentences and you had to make some corrections. So today we're going to have a quick recap, and we're going to have another quick think about our capital letters and full stops. So I'd like you to tell your adult, where do we always find a capital letter and where do we always find a full stop? Right, my sentence today. I love going to the shop. Now I want you to see, can you see any mistakes? Has Mrs. Donahoe been a little bit silly and made any silly mistakes? Because sometimes I do. I really do. So, our first mistake is here, isn't it? What always goes at the beginning of our sentence? It's always a capital letter, isn't it? So I haven't put a capital letter here. So this should be a capital letter. So let me rub that out and let's put a capital letter in. And it should definitely always be a capital letter, because what word is that? I. Always a capital letter. Doesn't matter if it's going at the beginning of a sentence or it's right in the middle of a sentence. It's always a capital letter. I love going to the shop. So where should my full stop be? Is it okay that it's here? I love going to the full stop shop. I don't think it is. I think I've made another mistake. So I'm going to rub that out. I'm going to put it here at the end of our sentence, aren't I? I love going to the shop. Full stop. Now, in the next few slides, I've got some tasks that I'd like you to have a go at. You can either have a go at writing them down, you can show your adult on the screen, you can talk it through, whichever way you'd like to do. In this task, you need to circle, or you could just touch on your screen, the capital letters that match the lowercase letters. So we need to have a good look because there's 4 different options. Which one do we think is the same? In this task, you're going to, so you can either copy it out and you can underline the capital letter and circle the full stop, or you could just highlight it and show your adult which one's which. So where's the capital letter? Where do we normally have capital letters when we're writing sentences? And where would you always find a full stop? So in our sentence, you can go and we can wait here. I want you to add your full stop and your capital letter. So as a spicy one, you can write it out and add it in for me. And if you're doing a more mild challenge, you could just let your adult know where it goes. Is this sentence punctuated correctly? Which means, is there a capital letter and is there a full stop in this sentence? Is the punctuation correct? True or false? My food is cold, but your food is warm. Has Joe punctuated that sentence correctly? So are the capital letters and the full stops in the correct place in that sentence? If you don't think so, why? Explain your answer. So today in project, we are looking at learning where in the world we are. So I wanted to take a little bit of a bigger picture to begin with. And just next to me, there's a picture of the world map. Now, when we were talking about our address and where we live, we worked out that we live in England, which is a part of the United Kingdom. And the United Kingdom is a part of Europe. Now, you might need your adult to help you read that word Europe, or you could have a go yourself, but I wonder if you could find where it is on the map. Here's another map of the world, and as you can see, I want you to try and locate Europe once again, and I wonder if you can try and locate with your adult where the United Kingdom is and where England is on that map. And this map actually shows sort of the shape of the world. And you might have a globe at home, so you can have a little look at that. But our world is spherical, isn't it? It's not a flat piece of paper. So I want you to have a think about where in the world, off of this map here, where the United Kingdom sits. And I want us to have a little think about today about our weather and what the weather's like in England. Do we have different types of weather? Are we always really hot? Is it always really cold? And I'd really like you to have a little think about that. So here's a bit of a spicy task. I would like you to have a think about. So in front of you, you've got that grid which talks about winter, spring, summer and autumn. As a mild task, I'd like you to be able, the children to be able to explain to their adults, what is winter? What weather is winter? What might you wear in winter? How might you feel in winter? What do we notice about winter? I always notice about winter that when I get up in the morning, it's really dark and it's really cold and the days are much, much shorter. What do we notice about spring? Do we see anything different growing? Summer. What can you tell me about the summer? And again, the autumn. We have real lovely seasons in England, and that's because of where we're positioned in the world. And we have really lovely seasons, and it's really nice for us to be able to notice those differences. So as a spicy task, what I'd like you to be able to do now is maybe write some words underneath. In the wheel, you've got that segment of the wheel where I think you can draw a nice picture and you could write some adjectives, some describing words about what winter's like, what spring, autumn and summer are like. So what I would like you to do today is I would like you to have a look at combining more numbers. So we're adding, we're taking two smaller amounts and we're making a larger amount. And I would like us to look at our part whole model. So it looks a little bit like this. So you could draw some of these in your books or get your adults to, and you can use your Numicon as well. So what we have is we have a number that we put in here. So you can put any number up to 10. It's totally up to you. I think I'm going to go with a 7. So a 7 up here. Let me find my 7 Numicon as well. So I have my 7 Numicon, and these you should be getting really good at just recognising these numbers. Remember I said on one of our lessons that it'd be really great by the time you come back if all of you just recognise as soon as you see it, that's the number 7. You don't need to count all of the little holes, but you just know that that's the number 7. So I've got my part in my top piece here. This is my total, my whole amount, and these can change because these two are going to be the numbers that make up my total. So these two we're going to combine, we're going to add them together and they make this number here. So what two numbers could be in here? Have a little look at your Numicon, have a little play around, think, oh, right, what two numbers make that, when I put them together, they make that same shape as that number 7. So I'm going to go with I have got a 3 and a 4. So 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 add 3 makes 7. So I'm going to put a number 4 in here and a number 3 in here. So 4 add 3 makes 7. Now, I'd like you guys to have a really good go at that. I'd like, if you are in reception, probably stick under 10. Although if you really want to challenge yourself, you could go up to 20. So you could put 20 in here, what two numbers add up to make 20, or you could put 18, but that's quite tricky. But have a little go. If you're one of our Key Stage 1 children, I would like you to think of whatever number you want to, up to 50. So you could go even larger. So you could think to yourself, right, I'm going to put 50 in here. What two numbers could I use to make up 50? What you could do is you could have a little look at your Numicon and you could count in tens. So I would need, so if I was going to count in tens up to 50, I would say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. How can I split those in my whole part model to create 50? Maybe what I could do is put 10 in one, and then I would have 40 in the other. So I'd like you to have a really good go at seeing what different ways you could do that today. So today in phonics, we are going to be looking at the sh sound. Here it is written. It's written as, again, it's 2 letters. So those 2 letter names, S and H. Remember we spoke about the letter names of the pig is what the pig is, its name, isn't it? It's a pig, but it makes an oink noise, and that's the sound that it makes. So it's very similar with letters. S makes a s noise, doesn't it? And H makes a sound. But together, when we push them together and we make this digraph, these 2 letter sounds, it makes a sh sound. So I really want you to all practice that. Do a nice big shh for me. You might also recognise this action for it. Shh, which means be really, really quiet. So it's our sh sound. Now, sh makes one sound. These two letters make this one sound when they're together, and that's really important when we're using our phonics to sound out words when we're reading them or when we're writing them. So what I'd like us to do is I'd like us to have a bit of a think about some words that we can think of with the sh sound in. So maybe you could tell them to your adult, maybe you could write some of them down. It's totally up to you, whichever way you want to do it. So I'm going to think of a couple of words. What words do I know that have the sh sound in? I know sheep. So sheep, that starts with the sh sound, doesn't it? Or when we were talking the other day, we were saying it doesn't always necessarily, these sounds aren't always necessarily at the beginning of our word. So we might have bush. So bush, bush. Can you read the sh words that are through the middle of the task? And then I want you to match them up with the pictures. Or you could have a look and you could look at the pictures and you could think, what is that a picture of? It's a fish. What word sounds like fish? Can I recognise the first letter, the second letter? Can I recognise that sh sound? So I want you to really have a go at doing it by yourself. And if you're struggling, ask your adult, but have a really good go. So in this task, can you follow the sound maze all the way from the start? Follow it through, and you can only go on words that have the sh sound in it. So I'll give you a clue. The first one is brush. And then you've got to find all the way through, and you can only go on the sh sounds all the way to the end. In our read today, I'd like you to think about the question, why is it important to forgive? First of all, what does that word forgive or forgiveness mean? When we talk about forgiving somebody, what are we talking about there? So what we mean when we say to forgive someone, it means to not necessarily to forget what somebody's done, but to give somebody another chance. So sometimes people make mistakes. We make mistakes all of the time, don't we? Most of you are very young, you come to school, and this is why you come to school. You come to school to learn, and we don't just come to school to learn about how to do adding and our phonics and how to read. We come to school to learn how to be the best person that we can be and how to be in the world and how's the best way to act sometimes. And sometimes that can be really tricky. And sometimes when we're only little, we make mistakes because we haven't quite learned how to be with our friends and how to be the best friend and how to make all the right choices all of the time. And that's really okay because that's why we're at school. So our adults can help us and show us and teach us the right way to be. So we talk about forgiveness all the time in school and giving people second chances and more and more and more chances, because it's really important that we allow people to make mistakes, but also that we forgive them and we move on from that and we encourage people to make the right choices. And we don't just say, oh, you've done something horrible, so I'm not going to be your friend anymore. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. It's really important that we forgive people. So I'd like you to have a really good chat with your adults at home about what forgiveness means. Have you done anything wrong at home where mummy and daddy have maybe forgiven you, or maybe your adults have done something wrong and you've forgiven them? That might be really interesting to talk about as well. So I'd really like to have a talk about forgiveness at home. And as a bit of more of a spicy challenge, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write that word forgiveness in the middle of a piece of paper, and then maybe you could do a spider diagram off of it, of all the things maybe people need to be forgiven for, or all the ways in which that they can be forgiven.